you're all Cajuned up. I'm from Baton Rouge, Cher, and you fall into your I don't know, and you're all Cajun until we get a guy like this who's really Cajun, and I say, how do you pronounce his name? And you go, Jeff Crouere is a New Orleans guy. He's a political commentator and analyst and columnist and writer and radio host. Hey, Mr. Jeff, how are you this morning?
Good morning, y'all.
He doesn't sound that Cajun. That's a good thing,
well,
Jeff.
Neither do you. Embrace it.
You wrote an interesting piece with regard to the governor of Florida coming to Louisiana in what John Bell's terms were to poach our businesses. And it's interesting, the one of the pieces you talk about, Rick Scott just wants to come sell his state. That's the whole point, right?
Well, I mean, Rick Scott has done a great job. I don't know if you've been following what's been going on in Florida, but the economy is really booming, and he is a guy who comes from the business world. I think can talk the language of people in business, and they've got a low-tax environment in Florida. They don't have an income tax. They've got a government that they want to work with business, not tax business to death. So he sees an opportunity in places like New York and California and Louisiana, ironically, because we've got a governor who I don't think has those kinds of philosophies. And he felt, wow, he just come to Louisiana and have some success. And if you're like the leader of Smoothie King or one of these other businesses that he talked to, and you have the governor of Florida knocking on your door, and he's offering whatever kind of incentive package that he can put together, and then in contrast, you have Louisiana, where who knows if anyone's ever talked to him or tried to work with him, and we have the highest sales tax in the nation. I mean, I don't know. I mean, we might be in trouble there, guys.
Mr. Jeff, pardon me, but I'm trying to read between the lines here. Do I sniff out that you are not a John Bell fan?
I'll tell you, in the last election, it was tough because I am a conservative Republican, and I do understand that the candidate, David Vitter, had problems, had issues. Certainly was not an ideal candidate. So I can understand why some Republicans did vote for John Bell Edwards, but he presented himself as a conservative Democrat. He said he was pro-gun and pro-military, and he was pro-life, and you got the impression he was going to come in here and be a real conservative and someone who's going to work with, I think, the other side. And I talk to Republican legislators all the time who say he is a hardcore liberal. He won't negotiate. He's just your typical tax and spend Democrat. So we got a bunch of false advertising in the last election.
Mr. Jeff, do you think the evidence has borne that out? You said he's a hardcore liberal. All I needed to know was he had been a superdelegate twice for Obama. But the way he presented himself as that sort of, I'm the Democrat you can trust, that, and he was running against the only Republican in the world he could have beaten. But is the evidence in the pudding, so to speak, is he governing like a liberal?
Well, according to the Republican legislators that I interview, he is. And he is, someone who's done a few things which I think are questionable. Of course, he expanded Medicaid, first off, and I don't believe in that. I don't believe by expanding a program that is not good health care, adding to our budget woes, is solving any kind of problem for the people of Louisiana. He expanded what he considers essential civil rights for the LGBT community, which, again, he didn't run on. I mean, that wasn't what he campaigned on. Then he, approved and pushed through a massive increase in sales taxes, which is the highest in the nation. And then in the last session, he just pushed through a program where we're releasing 1,900 prisoners because he wants criminal justice reform. But the problem is some of these prisoners that have been released have gone back and doing what they normally do, and that is commit crimes. And we just had some here in Kenner who committed armed robbery and assaulted a police officer. And I'm worried that one of these people he just released might go out and kill somebody.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Jeff, let me you be Governor Scott. I'll be the Smoothie King executive. You tell me why I should leave Louisiana. What is so horrible about Louisiana?
Well, Mr. Executive, we have no income tax in the state of Florida. You can come and make as much money as you want, and we're not going to put any income tax on you. Secondly, our sales taxes aren't the highest in the nation, so your employees can produce for you, and then they're not going to give it all back to the state. Third, we don't have a history of corruption here. Fourth, we've got a government that is not the highest per capita in the South as far as spending. Our universities are first rate. In fact, we have fewer universities than you do, but we do a better job here in Florida.
Woo!
So basically what you're telling me is for anybody else that comes to Louisiana to, quote, poach our industry, Louisiana's pretty low-hanging fruit, huh?
Well, except if you're Mississippi.
Thank God for Mississippi.
I think on that note.